What's up, everybody? Welcome to Jump Wave. Today, we're going to be doing a cover of Clint Eastwood by the Gorillaz on the Korg Volca Sample 2 using only the factory samples. The original track is in the key of D sharp minor, and the original tempo is 84 beats per minute. So let's go ahead and set our tempo on the Volca, 84 beats per minute. Let's set our swing at 25, and let's clear our pattern by holding down Function and hitting step 16. All right, now that our pattern is clear, let's go ahead and set up our samples. On part 1, we're going to have sample 003. This is kick vintage. On part 2, we're going to have sample 28, snare jungle. On part 3, we're going to have sample 81. That's cowbell raw. On part 4, we're going to have sample 128. That's bass electric. And on parts 5, 6, 7, and 8, we're going to have sample 102, that's vintage pad. On part 9, we're going to have sample 41, that's closed hat firm. And on part 10, we're going to have sample 62, cymbal crash. All right, now that we have our sample set, let's go ahead and start programming this pattern. Let's go over to part 1. It's our kick drum. We're going to have kick on steps 1, 9, and 11. Let's turn the decay down to about 40. And we're going to turn our start point up to about 1. Let's go over to our snare. We're going to have snare hits on steps 5 and 13. We're going to turn the decay to about 70. And we're going to turn the speed down to about 3. All right, so that's our kick and snare pattern. Let's go over to part 9. This is our hi-hats. So we're going to do hats on steps 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13, and 15. That's all the odd numbers. So you can hear it's kind of loud, so we're going to turn it down. But we want to add a little bit of variation to that hat too, because it sounds a little bit, mechanical. So to do that, we're going to change the parameters per step. So on the Volca Sample 2, you can hold down a step, change the parameter, and it will lock in that parameter for that specific step. So we want to do that to kind of automate the volume here. So we want some volume intervals going back and forth, low and high. So on steps 1, we're going to set the volume to around 40. On step 3, we're going to do it around 60. 5, again, around 40. 7, around 60. 9, around 40. 11, around 60. 13, around 40. And then 15, around 60. So those little subtle changes help make it have a little bit more of a human feel. We're going to do one more thing to the hats, though. We're going to turn the loop function on. So hold down Function, hit step 11. And now you can hear the hat has a little bit of a loop to it. It's repeating the sample. We're going to turn this to about 107. And then we're going to turn the decay down to about 35. So it just adds a little bit more movement to the hats. We're also going to do a little cut here around 110, a little high cut. Great. So that's pretty much our drum pattern, pretty much repeats throughout the whole song, with the exception of some cymbal splashes when it transitions from the chorus to the verse to the verse to the chorus. So we can put those in. That's on steps 15, 13, 11, and 9. So that's part 10. That's our cymbals. But we don't want those throughout the entire song. So we're going to put those in now, but we're going to go ahead and just mute that part so that we have them there when we need them, but we don't want to hear them throughout the entire song because that's not where they go. Hey, actually, don't do that. After making this video, I realized that the parts 9 and 10, I had forgotten that these are choke parts. So if you have something on 9 or 10 playing, they'll choke each other out. So having that crash cymbal programmed on 9, 11, 13, and 15 actually choked out the hi-hat part. And I didn't notice it while I was recording, that it doesn't play through. So you'll hear that throughout the video that the hi-hats stop here. I thought that because they were muted, that it wouldn't choke them, but it did. And sorry for not double checking that. So don't put those cymbals in that I just said put in. Don't put those in until you get to pattern 10. All right. All right. Now that we got our drums program, let's move on to our bass. Our bass part is basically going to be 2 parts. So we have a more tonal part here on part 3, and then part 4 is going to be more of our thump that we get from the bass. So we're going to layer those, playing the same notes, to get a much more fuller, richer bass tone. You may be asking, didn't you say part 3 was a cowbell? I did indeed. So how are we going to get a bass sound out of a cowbell? Well, we're going to use that same loop trick that we used for the hats. To get an oscillator. So just like a synthesizer, you can make an oscillator by speeding up the loop of the sample. And then you can take what is basically an oscillator and you can shape that sound just like you would on a synthesizer to get a different sound. So now we're going to program our notes. A little loud, sorry. But right now it's just playing a C note. So how do I know it's playing a C note? Well, to find this, I held out a tuner earlier and I played around with the length until I got a C note, because if you change the length, it changes the pitch. So we want a C note because that will make all of our note value changes relative. So let's go and let's put our parts in. So we're going to have a bass part on step 1, on step 7, step 9, and step 15. We're going to have bass parts here. Now, the notes for our bass are D sharp, D sharp, A sharp, F. So you may also be wondering, well, how do you get those notes if all you have is a C? Well, you can change the note values in the Volca Sample too. And the way you do that is by holding down the step, hitting function, take your finger off the step, continue holding down function, and then turning the speed knob, and that will change the note value. Now this is chromatic. So one note value is one note. So if you start at C and go up 1, that's C sharp, 2 is D, 3 is E sharp, 4 is E, 5 is F, so on and so forth. It also goes into the negative. Negative 1 is B, negative 2 is A sharp, negative 3 is A, so on and so forth. It goes 24 note values in both directions. So 2 octaves. It goes 2 octaves up, 2 octaves down. For this part, we're going to go into that second lower octave. So like I said, we have a D sharp, an A sharp, and an F. So we're going to hold down the step, function, take our finger off the step, and we're going to turn this one down all the way to 21. That's going to give us a D sharp. All right. Same thing, we want a D sharp here. Hold down the step, hit function, turn all the way down to 21. Here we want an A sharp. So that's negative 14. And then the last one is an F. That's going to be negative 19. All right, so you can hear the different notes are playing now. We're going to turn the high cut all the way down to 0. Want the decay about 125. And then we want the volume around 80. So you notice you can kind of barely hear it, and that's kind of the point because we want to stack this on top of the other bass part. We don't want it super loud. We just want it to add a little bit more tone to the bass so that it comes through a little bit clearer in the mix. All right, so that's our first bass part. We're going to go over to our second bass part now, and we got a really nice bass sample here. I'd like to just sit and talk about how awesome these factory samples are in the Volca Sample 2, because they really are great. They really, coming from the original Volca, these samples are a lot better. I really do enjoy them. So this is a great bass sample. We don't have to do any oscillator loop tricks or anything like that to get anything good. We already got a good sample here. So same thing, we're going to program the steps 1, 7, 9, and 15. We're going to play the same notes as the first part, but we're not going to go down so low in the octaves. So the notes are the same, D sharp, A sharp, F, but we're only going to go down negative 9 here. Negative 9. This is negative 2. And then this one is just negative 7. Do a high cut around 60. Awesome. Sounds great. All right. Now let's go over to parts 5, 6, and 7. These are going to be our 3 notes of our triad chord, our D sharp minor chord that plays throughout the whole song. So the song is in the key of D sharp minor, and the chord that is played repetitively throughout the entire track is a D sharp minor chord. So 5, 6, and 7 are going to be one of 3 notes in that triad chord. We're going to use our same loop trick that we used for part 3 on 5, 6, and 7 so that we can generate some notes here. So same thing, loop on. We're going to change the length to 4, the start point to 2, and then the decay down to about 40. And we want to do a high cut around 110. All right, we're going to do the same thing for part 6. Loop on, take the length down to about 4, start point to 2, decay 40, high cut 110. Should sound the same, and they do. Same thing, part 7, loop on, length 4, start 2, decay to about 40, high cut around 110. They all sound the same. Great. And just like with the bass part, these are C notes. So our note value changes are all going to be starting with that C, that middle C part. So the notes for a chord are D sharp, F sharp, A minor. It's a D sharp minor chord. So part 5 is going to be our D sharp. So we're going to have notes on steps 5, 7, and 13. Same thing, hold down the step, hit function, And then we're going to turn this down to -9, -9, and -9. All right, we're going to go over to our next note in the chord. This is going to be our F sharp. Same thing. Steps 5, 7, 13. And this is -6. And then our last note, 5, 7, and 13, is A sharp, -2. So you can already hear the kind of the character of the track is already starting to come together, and that's pretty much the meat and potatoes of it. Is the drums, the bass, and that chord. We're going to add one more part, though, and that is the melodica top line melody that plays in the chorus. So we're going to do the same thing we did for 5, 6, and 7 to create that chord. Turn the loop on, length 4, start 2. This time we're going to leave the decay to about 125, and we're going to do high cut around 110, but we're going to turn the volume down a little bit. It's going to be a little loud, about 75. Actually, I think we want to do a little high cut here. Take these down to about 90. Won't be so loud. You know, sometimes we just make changes on the fly. We're improvising, man. All right, so there we go. We got our little oscillator, a little fake oscillator for our melodica part. So let's program the notes. We got notes on steps 1, 2, 3, and 5. And just like with the bass, we went down into that second octave. For the melodica part, we're going to go up into that second octave. So like I said, the note values, they go down 24. They also go up 24. So we're going to take advantage of that. And we're going to program these notes here. So on step 1, the note is an A sharp. And that is all the way up 22. So I'm going to turn that up to 22 on the note value. Next note is a G sharp. That's a 20. Step 3 is A sharp, 22. And then step 5 is a D sharp. That's step 15. Sound familiar? All right. So track's starting to come together. That's our first measure of the chorus there. One more thing we're going to do before we split on to the next one is we're going to turn the reverb on. So to turn reverb, you hold down function and hit the white button that has reverb written above it. And we're going to turn the reverb on to 5, 6, 7, and 8. Just those. We're going to leave the drum parts dry. We're going to leave the bass parts dry. But we're going to make those fake synth parts pretty wet here. So we're going to turn that reverb up to about 90. And let's hear the difference. Yeah, sounds real nice. So let's go ahead and save that onto part 1. Now, the thing about this song is that it's really repetitive, which is you know, it owes to that classic hip hop feel that the song has. So a lot of our parts are the same, and they're going to repeat. So our first pattern is actually going to be the same as pattern 3. It's going to be the same as pattern 5. It's going to be the same as pattern 7. And it's going to be the same as pattern 9. So patterns 1, 3, 5, 7, and 9 in your memory are all going to be the same pattern. Okay? So just go ahead and save those. Let's save it to pattern 2 also. All right. Now we do have some slight changes to make here. The melodic part is different. We take out those 4 notes at the beginning. We only have 1 note at the end here, which is G sharp 20. Okay. And then we have 1 change to make with the bass part. So step 15 on the bass is also different. In the first measure, it's an F, and we're going to change it to an A sharp. So before it was negative 19, now it's going to be negative 7. Or, excuse me, negative 14. Was negative 19, now it's negative 14. So it was an F, now it's an A sharp. Same thing here. It was an F, now we're going to change it to A sharp, so it's just negative 2 here. Okay, we're going to save that on memory 2. We're also going to save it on memory 6. And we're going to save it on memory 4 as well. Now, memory 4 is also a little different. In that this is where that E major chord comes in that I mentioned earlier. Okay. So the bass is the same with the exception of this last note again. So it was an F in the first measure and then an A sharp in the second measure. Now it's an F sharp. So for our tonal bass part, this is going to be a negative 18. And then for our thump bass part, it's going to be negative 6. And then we change our chord. So on step 13, it's no longer a D sharp minor chord. Now it's an E major chord. So we're going to change this to an E, which is negative 8. We're going to change the second note to a G sharp negative 4. And the last note is a B negative 1. So you can hear just a little slight variation in there. So we're going to go ahead and save that on part 4. And we're also going to save it on part 8. And we're going to save it on part 10 as well. Now part 10 is where things change up pretty dramatically with the drums. So the last half of the measure, that kick is basically playing on steps 9, 11, 13, and 15. You don't have a snare hit there. Okay. And we're going to take out these hats also, because this is where our crash cymbal comes in. Another thing that is different about this this part 10 is the bass. So the bass is playing all D minor D sharp chord, or it's all playing D sharp notes along with the kick pattern here. So on steps 9, 11, 13, 15, that's all D sharp. So we'll go ahead and change that. So same thing, this is all negative 21. And then on the lower bass part, it's all negative 9. Same thing, going along with the kick pattern. So negative 9, negative 9, negative 9, and negative 9. Okay, so we changed our kick pattern, changed our snare, changed our bass. There's not really a chord during that part. And the melodica is actually just doing notes basically on 1 and 9. And it's playing a G sharp and an A sharp. So that's 20. And 22. So let's hear how that sounds. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So we'll save that on part 10. And we're also going to save it on part 11. On part 11, though, we're going to hit function and hit the play button. That's going to bring up active step. So what active step does, it basically changes which steps get played. So you can play around with this to make some cool variations in your patterns and stuff like that on the fly, like for performance stuff. Or if you don't want a pattern that plays 16 bars, you don't want to change the time, or you want to maybe make a pattern that's playing in like 3/4 time or something like that and only have like 12 beats, this is where you can do it with active step. What I want to do, though, is I just want to take out that first half of the measure and just have that last half of the measure that's playing that kick pattern, because it happens at such infrequent intervals during the song. So sometimes it's happening at the end of 8 bars. Sometimes it's happening at the end of 10 bars, depending if it's the chorus or the verse. If you're trying to arrange the song, that's what I would do, is have a separate pattern that's just that kick transition. So we'll save that on 11. And that's pretty much the whole song there. We're going to put it together here in a second, hear how it sounds. But the reason I did that, save that part 11 there, is when I do the performance of this, I'm going to come in, because that's how the song starts, with that kick pattern. So I'm going to come in on that kick pattern, and then I'm going to load up the chained patterns. So to chain patterns together, you hold down memory and you hit the first step you want to chain together, and then the last memory step that you want to chain together. And that'll chain patterns 1 through 10 together. So it'll play essentially the chorus if we've arranged this correctly. So I'm just going to do a little performance trickery here just to, make it sound kind of close to what it does on the record. And a cool thing, if you ever want to, integrate some of these things into your performance on the Volca Sample 2, cool thing to know is that, you don't have to be real quick of chaining these patterns together. If you just hit the first one that you want to chain and keep holding it down, you still have time, because it'll start playing that first pattern, and you still have time to, find the correct one you want to chain it to, because this is kind of slippery, this plastic keyboard here, and it's easy to hit the wrong one. And I can imagine if you were in a live performance setting, this would be, it would be dicey. So just a little trick there. You don't have to be perfect hitting 1 and 10. You can hit 1, it'll start playing 1, and then you can finish 10 while it's playing through 1, and it'll still chain them all together. It won't start over. All right, so let's try it. Let's hear how it sounds. I'm going to play pattern 11, and then I'm going to chain 1 through 10 together, and hopefully it'll sound the way I want it to. Let's go. Feel free to sing along if you want to. I ain't happy. I'm feeling glad I got sunshine in a bag. I'm useless, but not for long. The future is coming on. It's coming on. It's coming on. It's coming on. It's coming on. There you go. So that's Clint Eastwood by the Gorillaz on the Korg Volca Sample 2, using only the factory samples. Let me know in the comments if there was any samples that you would have used instead of the ones I chose. I'd love to hear your suggestions. If maybe there was a different sound that you would have played around with and got with this, I'd love to hear what you would have done. If you like this video, if you like the content I'm creating here on Jumpwave, go ahead and give my channel a follow. If there are any songs you'd like to see me cover on the Volca Sample 2 using only the factory samples, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear your feedback. Thank you all so much for watching. Hope you all have a great day.